In today's gospel, we have kind of the lead up to the feeding of the 5,000. Jesus had sent out the disciples two by two. It's a little bit different. It's interesting because in Matthew's gospel and Mark's gospel, a little different. Matthew's gospel, the John the Baptist, the disciples coming in, asking about, are you the one to look for? Do we look for another? In other words, are you the Messiah? And Jesus doesn't answer them directly. He says, well, just see and take a look what you see and you hear. The deaf are hear, those who are disabled are walking, the poor have the good news preached to them. Then John the Baptist is indeed martyred for his sticking up for the faith, sticking up for the truth. He's martyred. In the Gospel of Matthew, the disciples kind of sneak back in, I think, because you don't see them. But then they have the parables, some more parables, and then they finally go away, and then they have the feeding of the 5,000. In Mark's Gospel, in today's Gospel, what you have is Jesus sending out the disciples two by two, the death of John the Baptist, then the disciples come back, then they go away on the boat to go away by themselves. There's a website, Craft of Preaching, done by pastors from Missouri Synod Lutheran. They have an interesting thing. They like, the one thing the disciples wouldn't want, anybody wouldn't want, is, you've coming back, you want to talk to Jesus about, all that you've done and everything like that. And then all of a sudden you see this great crowd and you're like, oh, great. And so I think that's true. I can just imagine, the disciples wanting to tell Jesus everything, wanting to, tell him everything, all the good things, the blessings that occurred. And then here's this huge group that's there. But it wasn't that difficult to find them. The one thing about the Sea of Galilee is that the Sea of Galilee is not a massive body of water. It's not, like Lake Michigan or Lake Superior or something like that. That's, huge. It's not that big. And so, unless Jesus has developed the first submarine, the people can tell where they're going. So they head off in that direction. And sure enough, they disembark and they find them there. So that's the first thing. The other thing is that with the feeding of the 5,000, Jesus, asks them, what do they have? And they say, well, we just have 5 loaves and 2 fish, and that's not enough. So, send them away. And while that seems, harsh and everything, it's not like the Sea of Galilee is in the middle of nowhere. It's not like it's in the Sahara Desert somewhere. And, the next oasis is 70 miles away or 150 miles away. They have fishing villages along the Sea of Galilee. So they could have gotten back to their house. Certainly, it's been a while since, and, it's going to be tough, and, people would be, would be difficult, and there would be a lot of struggles, but they could probably, could do it if need be. But Jesus tells them to set everything up, and we see the beginnings of the feeding of the 5,000. So that's basically the gospel. It's basically what you're going to see is the setup, that the apostles go away with Jesus, that Jesus brings them to an open area. They then have the crowds. He teaches and then wants to provide them food because it's been a while since they've had food. And so the interesting thing in the comparison of the feeding of the 5,000 is that in the Synoptic Gospels, it's really more about messianic abundance. It's all about the prophecy of Isaiah saying that there would be this messianic abundance, that there would be enough for everyone. So even in the small amount that they had, they took what small amount that they had and multiplied it, so that it was enough for everyone. So that's basically the message. What we'll have next week and for a few weeks following is the Gospel of John, John chapter 6. And John chapter 6 takes a very different view on the feeding of the 5,000. For John's Gospel, it's about the teaching on the Eucharist. It's about the fact that Jesus is telling the people that unless you eat the flesh of the Son of Man and drink his blood, you have no life in you. That my flesh is true food, my blood is true drink. So really, instead of the institution of the Eucharist at the Last Supper, like the Synoptic Gospels, what you have in the Gospel of John is the teaching of the Eucharist following the feeding of the 5,000. And so we'll see that in the next couple of weeks. Thanks and God bless.